The young reporter stared at the silent prisoner through the iron bars and asked the same question for the third time. "Did you betray your country?" The old man lifted his eyes slowly, but instead of answering, he simply looked out the small window toward the fading evening sky. Days later, the world would discover the truth on its own, and that silence would become one of the most powerful responses in modern history. In 1894, France was shaken by a scandal that nearly tore the nation apart. At the center of it stood a Jewish army officer named Alfred Dreyfus, a man accused of selling military secrets to Germany. Newspapers exploded with outrage, crowds screamed for punishment, politicians demanded swift justice. To the public, the case seemed obvious. France was still haunted by its humiliating defeat in the Franco-Prussian War decades earlier, and fear of betrayal ran deep through the country. The military needed someone to blame, and Dreyfus became the perfect target. The evidence against him was weak from the beginning. A torn handwritten document had been discovered in a wastebasket at the German embassy in Paris. Handwriting experts claimed it resembled Dreyfus's writing, though several experts disagreed. But in a nation desperate for certainty, doubt was inconvenient. During his trial, military officials secretly delivered documents to the judges without allowing Dreyfus or his lawyers to see them. It violated the basic principles of justice, but few people cared. The public wanted a villain, not questions. In January 1895, thousands gathered in Paris to witness his public humiliation. His military insignias were ripped from his uniform, his sword was broken in front of cheering crowds. People screamed "traitor" as he stood there pale and stunned, repeatedly shouting his innocence. Then he was sent to one of the cruelest prisons in the world, Devil's Island, a tiny, isolated prison colony off the coast of French Guiana in South America. Surrounded by sharks, disease, and endless ocean, escape was nearly impossible. For years, Dreyfus lived in brutal isolation. Guards monitored his every movement. At times, he was chained to his bed at night. The tropical heat was unbearable. Insects covered the prison walls. Some prisoners lost their sanity within months. Yet what shocked many people later was not only his suffering, but his silence. Again and again, reporters, guards, and officials pushed him for dramatic confessions or emotional speeches. They expected anger, bitterness, or desperate attempts to convince the world, but Dreyfus often remained restrained and patient. He continued insisting he was innocent, but he refused to turn himself into a spectacle. Meanwhile, back in France, strange cracks began appearing in the official story. A military intelligence officer named Georges Picquart made a disturbing discovery. While reviewing intelligence files, he realized the handwriting on the secret document matched another officer much more closely, a man named Ferdinand Walson Esterhazy. Picquart quietly informed his superiors, expecting justice to follow. Instead, the army tried to silence him. The military leadership feared embarrassment more than truth. If Dreyfus was innocent, it meant the French army had publicly destroyed an innocent man. Rather than admit their mistake, officials transferred Picquart to dangerous assignments overseas and buried the evidence. But secrets rarely stay buried forever. Rumors spread through Paris. Writers, politicians, and intellectuals began arguing publicly about the case. France became deeply divided. Families fought over dinner tables. Friends stopped speaking to each other. Newspapers published furious headlines every day. Then came the moment that changed history. In 1898, famous French writer Émile Zola published an explosive open letter titled J'accuse on the front page of a newspaper. In it, he accused the French government and military of knowingly imprisoning an innocent man and covering up the truth. The letter shocked the world. Suddenly, the case was no longer just about one prisoner. It became a battle over justice, corruption, nationalism, anti-Semitism, and truth itself. Still, Dreyfus remained on Devil's Island, isolated from much of the chaos unfolding in Europe. He had no social media, no television interviews, no easy way to defend himself. Much of the time, he knew almost nothing about the political storm growing around his name. All he could do was wait. And that waiting became its own form of strength. Years passed before the pressure became too powerful to ignore. Eventually, new investigations exposed forged evidence used during the original trial. Officials who once spoke with absolute certainty suddenly contradicted themselves. Witnesses changed stories. Hidden documents surfaced. The truth was emerging slowly, painfully, and publicly. In 1899, Dreyfus was finally brought back to France for another trial. Many expected immediate freedom. Instead, something unbelievable happened. The court found him guilty again, although with extenuating circumstances. Even people outside France were stunned. It seemed impossible. How could a man proven innocent still be condemned? But time continued doing what arguments alone could not. Public opinion shifted further. More evidence appeared. International pressure increased. The French government eventually offered Dreyfus a pardon, though accepting it meant technically admitting guilt. Exhausted after years of suffering, he accepted the pardon to regain freedom. Yet the full truth still had not officially arrived. It would take several more years before France finally cleared his name completely. In 1906, 12 years after his arrest, Alfred Dreyfus was officially declared innocent. He was reinstated into the French army, and later served during World War I. History now remembers the Dreyfus affair as one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in modern history.
But what makes the story unforgettable is not only the injustice, it is the lesson hidden inside his silence. Dreyfus spent years surrounded by accusations, hatred, and lies. People demanded explanations from him constantly. They wanted emotional reactions. They wanted immediate answers. But sometimes truth does not arrive instantly. Sometimes arguing with every accusation only feeds the chaos. Sometimes defending yourself endlessly changes nothing in the moment. Sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is remain patient while time reveals what words cannot. The world eventually answered the questions for Alfred Dreyfus. Not because he shouted the loudest, but because the truth survived longer than the lies.